question is, what is pathos? And what does it have to do with your public speaking skills? Those are the questions we're going to answer in this video, so let's get into the details. Hello there and welcome back. I am Alex Lyon and this channel is called Communication Coach. And we are in the middle of a three-part series on ethos, pathos, and logos. And these are all ways that we can persuade our listeners, ways that we can appeal to our listeners and bring them along and convince them of our message. So there's much more here than just academic concepts. They have direct practical application for us as professionals. So in this video, we're going to talk specifically about pathos. And I'd like to say up front that I think pathos is the most powerful tool you have to persuade your listeners, because it's all about emotion and heart. And I think we're much more convinced by our emotions than we are by our logic. So this is about hearts, not heads. Logos is a video about heads, and we'll get to that next. And also I want to recommend that you stick around to the end of the video. I'm going to recommend a couple of resources that you can use to help bring your public speaking skills to the next level. So in terms of pathos, let's define what we mean. Pathos is where we appeal to the audience's emotions. We draw out or involve listeners' feelings. This is, again, appealing to the heart. This does not mean, by the way, that you as a speaker need to show your emotions and cry or do something like that. In fact, I have seen many speakers who get really emotional in the moment, and it absolutely does nothing for me. And then I've seen other speakers communicate in a very straightforward, matter-of-fact way, but it still hits me in the heart. So it's not about the speaker's emotions. It's about whether or not the speaker is appealing to the audience's emotions. That's a key distinction that a lot of people miss. So pathos is about communicating in a way that touches your listeners' emotions, that evoke an emotional response from listeners. And it could be inspiration, it could be compassion, it could be humor. I suppose it could be anger, but I don't recommend necessarily going in that direction. So let's look at three concrete ways that you can appeal to your listeners' emotions. And the number one way, by far, is telling stories. Stories transport us. A well-told story will sweep us away into the world of the narrative. There's something about a story that we as listeners can see ourselves in personally, and it gets us all caught up in it. Much more so, for example, than a statistic or a fact. And in fact, I saw a statistic not long ago about dogs. This is really crazy, but 3.9 million dogs are abandoned every year in the United States. That's a huge number, 3.9 million. That goes to my head. But what even persuades me more is one particular story I heard, and I saw a video of a dog that was being abandoned by its owner at a shelter in the middle of the night, and the guy got rid of the dog, ran back into his car, closed the door, and was trying to drive away. And that little dog was pawing at the car door, trying to get back into the car with his owner. And as the car was going away, the dog chased down the owner, and it was so heart-wrenching. It stirred up so much compassion for me and for my own dog in my life, golden retriever, by the way, that it really touched my heart. Way more than a statistic, 3.9 million. So stories have a way of reaching into our hearts and pulling out those emotions. And I use this same strategy to get my wife to watch football, by the way. She doesn't care about football, or she didn't care about football, but what I did is I started telling her real stories about the players. And instead of just, oh, this team wants to beat that team, I would say, oh, you see that player right there and how they keep showing him and he looks really intense today? That's because his dad is sick and in the hospital, and he's dedicating today's game to his dad. And my wife will sit down on the couch and watch that game now, that football game, because she cares about the person's story. So stories about people are very compelling. That's the best way, above all, to appeal to people's emotions. The number two way is to visually demonstrate what you are saying. So you have words, and those are important, but if there's any way you can bring it to life in a way that appeals to people's eyes, that's what you want to do. You can show an image like a photograph perhaps or other kind of painting to bring out people's emotions. But you can also, with your words, paint an image. Like you can act something out for them, bring something to life. I've seen people do simple magic tricks that are very visual and you go, ah, and it really delights you and draws your emotions in because you saw something visual. You can also take something that could just be shared with words, but you act it out a little bit like a skit, you make it theatrical in a way, you dramatize it. Like there's a speaker called Nicole Johnson, and she did an incredible speech called The Invisible Woman. You can find it on YouTube. And she was talking about how moms are often underappreciated, but that was okay with her because she was still trying to build a beautiful family. And to act it out, she had this huge book of architecture, and she was talking about the different cathedrals that had been built over the years and how so many of the works of art were credited to unknown authors. And she was flipping through the pages and it said, builder unknown, builder unknown, builder unknown for these beautiful cathedrals. And she said, you know, that's okay. I don't need credit for my child's life. I just want them to love being at home and to grow into their own person someday. But when she acted it out visually with the huge book turning the pages, that's what really pumped it up and brought it to life. That's what appealed to my emotions. The third way to appeal to listeners' emotions is through vivid language. The way you choose your words is really critical because you can choose dry, ordinary words, or you can use metaphor and simile and different language strategies that tap into our hearts more than our minds. So there's an example that I used in a different video about Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, which was a very emotional speech. And an old professor friend of mine, Peter Marston, said, you know, if he had called that speech, I Have an Idea, nobody would have remembered it. But he chose his words carefully. He said, I have a dream, because a dream is a powerful emotional image, much more than the word idea is. So you want to choose words that fire us up emotionally and involve us that way. Another great way to use words like this is to find a good quotation that really resonates with people's emotions. Because quotations, you know, the author has worked on those words very carefully and deliberately. And so they will cut through in a way sometimes that our own words will not. Like I saw a great quote that a friend shared with me the other day by Tom Fuller. The quote is, "Great hopes make great men." And there's a lot going on there in that quotation, even though it's really short, like the idea of greatness and hopes and wanting to be a great person. Quotations have a lot of emotional appeal in them compared to our ordinary words. So pathos is all about appealing to our audience's emotions. And I think the top 3 ways to do that are to tell good stories, to use visual demonstrations in ways that appeal to people's eyes, and also to use vivid language, really to tap into their heart that way. Pathos is about heart, not head, and it's one of the most powerful ways. So let me tell you a little bit more about these resources that I mentioned. There are 2 resources that I want to recommend to help you become a better public speaker. The first one is a free PDF download. They are tips to help you become a more confident, composed public speaker. You put your email in and I send you that download. And the second is a full course that I have created called Present Like a Pro. And the goal of the course is to help you become a top 10% speaker in your professional setting. I'll put links to both of those resources in the description below this video. And question of the day about pathos, what do you think the best ways are to appeal to your audience's emotions? I would love to hear your suggestions to that question in the comment section below this video. So take care, and I will see you in the last video on logos.